PIEGUYRULZ here, and welcome to the Reboot Revival Rehash Cast. I am here, as always, with my co-host, MonstersReview.
What's up?
And today we are joined by a very special guest, Mr. Chuggaaconroy.
Hello, I am a perfect rehash because I've been on this before, not on this show, but on your channel.
Yes. All right, so welcome to the show, everyone. This is the show where we compare reboots, rehashes, revivals, basically anything, really. We've kind of stretched the definitions here. Today we have a very special show because it is pretty much all SpongeBob, mostly SpongeBob.
You only make videos about SpongeBob.
This is the year of the least SpongeBob videos. I got a comment about that like earlier in the year of like, oh, you only make SpongeBob videos, and like literally it was like 3 videos in the year that were SpongeBob. So take that random commenter from earlier in the year.
Ha! Okay, fine. You only make videos on Teen Titans. No, I'm not gonna go there. You bring up that show and just everything explodes no matter what you say about it.
Yeah.
I thought you said no controversial subjects, and here you're bringing up Teen Titans Go.
That's worse than talking about politics.
There's 3 things we don't talk about on this podcast: religion, politics, Teen Titans Go.
Yeah.
Except we talked about Teen Titans Go in the first episode.
That was the first episode.
All right,
I
well,
was like kind of that was the learning experience from the pilot episode.
Yeah.
All right, so today we got SpongeBob Meets the Strangler and The Getaway as our comparisons. Monsters also wanted me to talk about our icons from last week.
Yeah.
So I got new Piecons, and I didn't really talk about it much last week, but because it was a big surprise, and at the point we recorded, I don't even think I had them finished. But I have new Piecons, so I thought it'd be funny to do like a Frankenstein version of the old and the new one to be a logo for the recast, which I think looked all right. Some people weren't crazy about it, but in order to make it kind of like consistent, we were going to have Monsters' old profile with his new one, because he recently got a new one. The problem is that your old profile, the face is looking at like a 3/4 degree angle.
Right.
So it doesn't make as seamless like a little half and half transition as mine did.
Yep.
So Monsters was like, this doesn't look great, let's not do this. And I was like, just do it, we'll let the fans decide. And you guys decided, so we're never doing that again.
It was a cool concept, though.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
We also have a Discord. There's a link in the description. If you want to leave comments and questions and suggestions that we use in the podcast, please join our Discord server. Chuggaaconroy, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty good. About to fly out for a wedding tomorrow, but, just taking care of things little by little before I left and been happily working.
Nice. Is it Peach and Bowser?
I would say that I'm going to the moon, but I'm already afraid of regular flying. So, but I guess you could say like Peach and Waluigi. Yeah, it's Lucagen and Proton John. They're getting married.
Why did I know that's who you were talking about when you said that? Interesting.
It's just I don't know. Like
on the real though, Bowsette for Smash. No.
He thinks he is Waluigi, so I think at this point he has just become Waluigi to everyone else. Anyway,
That's fair.
So just been preparing for that. Been happy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Been
nice.
What's the name of the Happy Club or something? The clan in Earthbound?
Oh, the happiest.
Right. You're joining them.
Blue. I'm learning how to whistle. I will practice over there. How about you guys?
Monsters, that Planet Sheen review, is it out?
No, it's not. No surprise here. Yeah, it's not done. I haven't made progress on it in like 2 months.
Who couldn't blame you?
Yeah, no, it's dreadful. I mean, in all honesty, I really haven't had the time to. But also, like, when the time does pop up to work on it, I'm probably just going to be like, why? When I finally have some leisure time to myself, why would I spend that beautiful, beautiful, sweet time watching Planet Sheen and making a video ranting about it? I promise I will get it done. It will be done sometime. I can't guarantee when, but yeah, Planet Sheen.
Who would blame you?
Yeah. I feel like I just got a whirly hopper. No. That's a reference to Planet Sheen. Anybody that
he's
doesn't
referencing
know.
it now. No. It's a special kind of bad though, because like I know that Planet Sheen is bad because like I've just heard through like the grapevine and seen a couple episodes myself, but no one ever talks about it. Like it's a thing that just no one wants to remember. Like
no, that's the thing. Like even with shows that I really really don't like even with, well, I don't want to say Problem Solvers, probably not that show, but even with some shows, they'll have their fans. Like let's say the worst episodes of SpongeBob, in my opinion, still have their fans. Definitely. Planet Sheen, dude, I don't know anyone that would be like, oh man, yeah, my favorite is episode 14 where Sheen dates the two-headed girl. Like, or like, I love the episode where not Carl Weezer joins the show. Like,
right. Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened for me. I was working on that top 10 cartoons of all time video, and, I was reminiscing back on Jimmy Neutron because, I love Jimmy Neutron. And I was watching episodes on Hulu, and I came across Planet Sheen, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this existed. So after I finished that video, I tortured myself essentially and watched all 52 episodes of Planet Sheen.
That's the thing. Your video's like done. Like you're like, I don't know, you're stop motion animating it or something.
The audio is completely recorded. It's just the visuals that need completion.
Just release the audio.
Yeah.
Out of morbid curiosity, I decided to see what episode 14 of Planet Sheen actually is to see how right you were. The official description: Sheen vows to never bathe again.
Wait, can you give the title? What's the title?
Washing My Sheen. It's actually really funny. Actually, that's the best
Planet
thing
Sheen
I've seen
has
from
some
that
of
show.
the craziest titles in the world.
Of course, we have the pun master when we're talking about Planet Sheen titles.
Yeah.
All right. I'm doing all right. I'm trying to catch up on sleep. The SpongeBob video just wrecked me.
Right, but it's out. It's done.
Yeah, that's good.
You have that. Yeah.
Seems like the shorter season let you do higher production values, so you ended up just creating more work for yourself.
Kind of. The thing with the SpongeBob video is there's always just more to be done. Like, and whenever I have an idea, I can't not do it. Like this season, I tried to do kind of unique transitions for each. Not unique for each, but I did a different transition. Ordinarily, I just do like a push to the left for the next slide. But this time, I tried to do one where it was like an eraser erasing the whiteboard or the blackboard. And I was like, I had that idea. And that was like 16 hours before the video was about to go up. And so I'm like, sure, let me go into After Effects and whip this thing up and then render it out 21 times for each transition and then put that in and then check it to make sure there's no errors with that, which there were because I had to change the slides afterwards and I had to re-render it. Anyway, that's really what it is. It's just that, like, no matter how much I plan ahead of time and no matter how much I have a formula down of making these videos, there's always just new little ideas I have, or there's always like one thing. Like I forgot to change the title color on the thumbnail and the season 10 picture. That's not supposed to be blue. That's not the right color. I change the color every time. That's the color I think for season 8 or 9 or something. So yeah. Anyway, not to bring everyone down. Let's get into what we talked about, what we watched this week. So, Mr. Review.
Yeah.
Did you watch any televisior?
Yes, I did. I mean, this isn't television. The first thing I'm going to bring up, it's a movie. Over the weekend, I watched Sausage Party with some friends.
Oh.
And it wasn't my first time watching it. I think this is maybe the third time I've seen it.
Why?
I ask myself that all the time. It's a decent movie. I mean, it's got some good fun. It's got some good jokes. I love, it's not the most sophisticated movie, but I do like the inclusion of the metaphors and the allegories and like the douche actually being a douche. And like, just kind of those metaphors that parallel real life issues that humans deal with in comparison to food. And the people that I was watching it with, it was their first time seeing it. And during some of the scenes, I'm sure that even if you haven't seen Sausage Party, basically it kind of escalates to where the food start basically being chopped and eaten. And it's like really violent. And they were like, oh my God, this is like borderline like murder. This is like, so basically they were watching it and they were like, this is like John Wick violent.
Monsters, is it actually though?
No, I mean some of it, like they really do make it dramatic, and like they have screaming, and there's even some parts where it's like the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, where it's like the shaky cam, and there's like people with their guts hanging out. Like they kind of try to do that with the food, but it's food. It's CGI like cartoon food. So when I watch it, I just think it's funny. But they were like genuinely disturbed by it. And I mean, there's a lot of shock value that comes with it the first time you watch it, especially, which is why I think they were so hooked into it. But since it was my, third time watching it, I was just sitting there enjoying it. Have you guys seen Sausage Party?
No.
I've never seen it either. I've heard things.
Monsters, every time you mention you haven't seen like a really good show on this podcast, I'm just going to bring up the fact you've seen Sausage Party 3 times.
Yeah. No, you can hold me to that.
You know, you could have watched some of The Legend of Korra. You could have watched Steven Universe. You could have watched there's tons of things, and you watched Sausage Party 3 times.
Oh my god! I found someone else who thinks The Legend of Korra is good. Thank you for existing.
At least one season of that show is really good.
I'll concede that season 3 is next level compared to the rest of the show.
I've only seen the first season.
Yes. Oh, season 3.
But, the other stuff I've watched, I was bored, and again, I was browsing on Hulu. And I came across Justice League Action, which I've heard about, but I haven't seen anything from it. I think it's been on Cartoon Network for a year or two now. And I thought it was dull. Like, I wasn't really a big fan, and I'll give it the benefit of the doubt because it was the first 2 episodes. They're the first 2 parts of a 4-part special called Shazam Slam. But no, it was a lot of action, and that's what I like. By the way, we do need more action cartoons.
An action show on Cartoon Network? What?
Yeah. Crazy, right?
But it's 11 minutes, right?
The way that I heard about this, it's 11 minutes long per episode. And the way that this series was kind of explained to me is that it's like a comedic take on Justice League. From the episodes I saw, there wasn't really too many jokes. I mean, it's a lot more lighthearted than like the early 2000s Justice League Unlimited, but no, it was just boring. Like the action, there was a lot of action. It just wasn't that great. It was a lot of like magical effects and stuff like that. I don't know. It didn't really have me hooked, but it does have a cool voice cast. Like Kevin Conroy plays Batman. Mark Hamill's in there. Sean Astin. There's a lot of celebrity cameos. So there's that. And then also SpongeBob themed episode. I did watch an episode of SpongeBob. Cliche, but it truly is one of my favorite episodes. Band Geeks. I know that everybody says, "Oh, Band Geeks is the best episode of SpongeBob." I don't know if I can say it's the best, but I love Band Geeks. It's so iconic, it's so funny, so well written. And when I think about why I love SpongeBob and what I love about SpongeBob, this episode is the first thing that pops into my head.
I think Band Geeks just has a little bit of what everyone likes. Where it's not just jokes, it's you have Squidward not getting, crapped on in the end. You have a musical number that's really big and epic.
I love it when they like replace the voice. Like that's one of my favorite parts of the Sweet Victory song is the fact that it's SpongeBob singing it, but it's not SpongeBob's voice. It's like this very deep, rock metal voice.
Yeah, it's beautiful is what it is.
It's also an underdog story, which is everyone loves an underdog story.
Right. And there's so many iconic moments too, like is mayonnaise an instrument? No, horseradish is not an instrument. White sedan, Plankton playing the harmonica, all that stuff. Like it's just such a great episode.
Pretty much every character in the show, like I don't know if Larry's in it though, but like pretty much every character in the show has at least one really good moment in it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not just that it has a wide cast, but it's like every character kind of ends up doing a little something.
Mm-hmm. It's really good. I don't think anyone would blame you for saying it's a good episode.
Right.
I'd love to meet someone who doesn't like that episode. Like, I do think it's like a little overrated. It's not really something that I would consider the best episode of SpongeBob.
You're a chocolate with nuts guy, aren't you?
I am. Come on. But no, like, I'd like to meet someone who genuinely doesn't like that episode because I don't know, that'd be really interesting.
Hearing a critique against it would be really rare, and like if it was well built, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that could be interesting. I don't know. Maybe that'd make for an interesting video. Like
I do like most of the stuff in season 2, and this belongs in there. So
fair enough.
Definitely.
All right. Well, I'll go next. So last week I watched. So I mentioned that I'm stuck in my 1 month paid of Boomerang streaming service, and I still am. So I'm trying to get my money's worth there. So I continued watching the Looney Tunes show, and I watched like a decent chunk more episodes, and I think I've really kind of like. First of all, there's only 2 seasons. I thought the show was on because it was on for like 4 or 5 years, but it's only 2 seasons. So unfortunately, it does seem like the type of show that would have probably gotten really good, maybe like in 3 or 4 or 5, like in future seasons. Because season 2, I went back and I watched it again, and like season 2 is definitely like a bit of an improvement. But I think what really kind of kills the show a lot for me is Daffy. The show very heavily relies on many storylines where Daffy Duck is a self-involved idiot that doesn't know what's going on around him. Like, I mentioned the examples from the first episode, and it is the first episode, but just like the most obvious jokes of like Bugs is like, I bet you don't even know my last name, and then Daffy Duck calls Bugs Bunny like, you know, Bugs Buford or something like that. Like, it's just like, oh wow, good joke there. But like a lot of the storylines revolve around Daffy just doing that, and it's not that I don't like Daffy. I think it's just obvious. Like, the jokes are just so obvious. But I saw episodes where it's Bugs and Daffy versus like another character. Like, there's an early episode where Yosemite Sam is reimagined in this as their neighbor. He's like a shut-in.
Yeah.
He's off the grid and he's self-sufficient, except there's a thunderstorm, so his solar panels don't work. So he has to mooch off of Bugs and Daffy. And when it's that, and Bugs and Daffy are trying to basically trick him to get him out of the house, it feels like it's a good, like, homage to classic Looney Tunes, but in a more modern setting. And I feel like that works actually decently well. There's another episode the first episode with Lola, where she's like a crazy stalker girlfriend, and Bugs wants to let her break up with her and let her down, but through like shenanigans and through her misunderstanding, they ultimately end up like she thinks he's proposing, and like he just gets further in, but he's trying to trick her out of it, like with costumes and all this other stuff. And I feel like, again, great modern take on Looney Tunes. But then you get an episode where it's like Daffy goes to a self-help seminar, and he thinks that when the self-help person says spread your wings and fly, Daffy thinks literally he must become a flight attendant. And then so he goes on, and he's just kind of going on and on and on about that, and it's just like, I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. I'm still watching it, and I'm probably still gonna watch it. I'm probably gonna make it all the way through. So I am interested in it, and I do like certain episodes and certain aspects. But I feel like Daffy as a character is just really played out. Like, I don't know. I kind of roll my eyes at that, and I feel like that's unfortunate. And season 1 especially doesn't have that much of Bugs in it, which is weird. Like, so yeah, there's that. And then the other thing I was watching, also Looney Tunes related, which is the new Looney Tunes. So last week we asked the question of, like, what is the latest Looney Tunes project? What's going on? What is leading up to this Space Jam 2? And it turns out that it is indeed Wabbit / New Looney Tunes. It's sometimes called one, sometimes called the other. I don't know why. But basically it is a like 100% return to form of just these shorts where it's just Looney Tunes, but like, in a modern day setting. Bugs is much more of a smart aleck. He's not really a straight man anymore. Excuse me. Daffy is no longer like egocentric, me. He is now just the complete loon that he was in his first few appearances, which is really cool. Porky Pig is, he actually looks like his like original incarnation, doesn't look like the big-headed Porky that we're used to. So like it's a very, very, like they're very much trying to go back to the old Looney Tunes with it. And I was surprised that I actually really liked this show. Like, ordinarily, like, oh god, I couldn't stand Tom and Jerry tales. Like, if you try to recreate the classics, oftentimes it just like it falls completely on its head. But no, I was actually chuckling at the gags in these. It's it's like your old, but like there was one where it was called Elmer's Fudge, where Elmer was running a fudge and ice cream van, and he basically trapped Bugs as his mascot, and so Bugs was just tricking all the customers into leaving and tricking Elmer into all sorts of shenanigans. Like, I don't know, if you want a modern take on Looney Tunes that is not bad, I say check out New Looney Tunes or Wabbit as it's known. There's one thing for some reason, especially in the earlier episodes, there's this squirrel named Squeaks. I don't know if it's original to this show or if he is some sort of classic Merry Melodies character, but his shorts tend to not be the best because they often put Bugs as the antagonist, which is not always the most entertaining thing. I don't know. Squeaks he can't talk. He's just a squirrel. He squeaks. But yeah, no, I was pleasantly surprised with that. Obviously, also I watched SpongeBob, but you already know about that. So, Chugga, did you watch anything interesting this week?
I watched SpongeBob season 11, but I doubt you want me sullying your opinion of that before you watch it yourself.
Who says I haven't watched it?
Oh. Well, in that case, let's get your opinion. No. I haven't watched a lot just because I've had a lot going on, though, but I've actually been watching or rewatching the Saturday morning Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon.
Oh.
Like Sonic X?
No, Sonic Sat AM.
Oh.
Have you never heard of that, Monsters?
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
All right, well, let's
I thought you were talking about
it.
Sonic X because that used to be Saturday mornings on 4Kids.
No, I'm talking about... do you know anything about Sonic Sat AM?
No.
Okay. I saw a review, I think.
Is that the one that came before the Sonic movie? Like the one from 1999?
Yeah, it was before that. It came out in the early 90s. It's not Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. It was on at the same time as it. Even there were two shows about Sonic on the same channel at the same time. It's weird.
Yeah, it's called Sonic Sat AM Monsters because it aired Saturday mornings. Like, that's literally it. Because it's called Sonic, and people were confusing it with Sonic. Yeah. Not surprisingly. Anyway.
Right.
Yeah, the two shows are called Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and then Sonic the Hedgehog. But
wow.
No, Sonic Sat AM is amazing. Like, it is fantastic, especially for its time. It's very continuity driven, very character driven as well, and it's one of those shows that just should not have been canceled as early as it was, and it's such a bittersweet feeling going back and rewatching it, though, because you always just kind of think about what it could have been if it was allowed to go on, but...
does it have a true ending?
No.
Oh, that sucks.
Okay, do you want to know the definition of heartbreak?
Yes.
Okay, all right, we're doing it.
Tell me.
All right, so this Sonic cartoon, it ends on... It is, like I said, very plot-driven, very continuity-based. The second season and final season ends on a huge cliffhanger because they were expecting to get a third season, and they only didn't because the head of children's programming at ABC retired, and the new guy who came in is like, no, we're going to throw away all of the old administration stuff and do things my way. That was pretty much the only reason it got canceled. And the head writer wanted to come back to the show so many times, and just due to bad luck, bad timing, bad circumstances, what have you, he couldn't get a conclusion to the series greenlit. He ended up in his spare time working on the third season himself so that if he ever got the call, he would be able to go back to it, already have that in his back pocket. He died before this happened.
Dude.
Yeah, it is such a tragic history of such a good show. I know that, it seems like a commercial for a video game, like a glorified commercial for a video game wouldn't be good in its own merits, but it really is.
Huh.
I mean, probably better than the Mario cartoons.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's really weird, though, because, consistently Sonic has fared better than Mario in the way of TV, which I know that's not saying much, but this is the one instance where it definitely is.
Do you think, is it kind of like if Avatar had ended on season 2?
Oh.
Because the Avatar's dead. The end.
Debatably, I guess. Yeah.
All right.
No. I know the show's been praised by everyone, and I've never seen a negative review of it ever. But yeah, that's.
I challenge somebody to do that. Release a bad review of Sonic Sat AM.
Is this cartoon the reason why people love Sonic? Because I'm still trying to understand why people love Sonic so much.
I mean,
the characters.
It could be a reason. It could be a reason. Sonic was. I like how we're diverting into video game talk, though. But I guess kind of the way that I see Sonic's popularity, because I know a lot of people present day who hadn't played his games before don't really get into it, though. But as somebody who has liked Sonic for a few decades, I think it's just that he was presented as the cool alternative to Mario back in the day, and his games ranged from, halfway decent to really good occasionally. depending on what you were playing, because, I mean, he had shaky quality even in the Genesis days because there were tons of spin-offs that people don't remember. But the fact that he was seen as a cooler alternative and he had, sometimes really good games, I think that just led to an attachment rate. He was really good marketing is the way that I would put that. And the fact that it was actually backed up with good games at the time, I think that's what contributed to the popularity and why people got so attached to the character.
Fair enough. I'm not like, I don't hate Sonic or anything. But I just, there is like a very strong attachment people have to the characters, like in the way that you don't really see for even similar video games. Like, I know people love their like Waluigi jokes and stuff, but I don't see people like fanning out with like the Mario characters in the same way as Sonic characters or lots of other franchises. But to be fair, Sonic's had a lot of more characterization.
Yeah. His portrayal is completely different depending on which incarnation you're talking about too.
Fair enough.
I've only played a single Sonic game in my life. I played Sonic, I think it was Sonic Advance 3.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was for the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
So that's, I have Sonic Adventure 2, but I haven't installed it yet. But I've heard great things about that.
Curious what you'd think of it playing it for the first time now, because I know that it is a little bit divisive now, but yeah.
I played Sonic Spinball.
Did you beat Sonic Spinball?
No, God, no. Are you kidding me? Not even with like save states.
Okay. Quick tangent. Sorry. I go to MagFest every year, a gaming convention, and they do this thing. They do challenges where they have save states loaded up for different classic games with challenges in them. And completing different challenges is worth certain numbers of points. And by being one of the top scorers of the weekend, you can actually win prizes.
Is this like some sort of humble brag coming?
No. I wish. John competes in it every year, and he does really well, though. But he always tells me about the challenges because he does it every year. And they do things like beat 8-1 of Super Mario Brothers 3 without a power-up. You can't even get hit. No powering up, nothing. They'll have I don't know, beat this boss in Sonic 3 and Knuckles as Knuckles with no rings. They'll do challenges that are really tough. One year they had a Sonic Spinball challenge, and I'm not joking, it was beat Robotnik.
I can't even imagine what a boss fight's like in that game.
No, just the fact that beating the boss was the only thing that they had for that challenge, and it was worth a lot of points too. Like that, your game is too hard when.
Yeah. All right. So next time we have you on the podcast, we're gonna do Sonic Sat AM and Sonic the Hedgehog, right?
Sonic Sat AM versus Sonic Boom.
Sonic Boom with Justin Bieber.
Oh gosh.
Have you guys seen that clip?
I've seen the episode.
Oh god.
Sonic Boom, from what I hear, isn't too bad.
It's a good comedy show, I'd say.
The television show.
Definitely. I feel bad for Sonic Boom because I think the show is, all right. It ranges from all right to pretty good. The comics were great. I see kids liking the toys from it, though. But the Wii U game... Oh, also the 3DS game is pretty good.
Yeah.
The Wii U game is like the single worst thing in that franchise, and yet the entire franchise is associated with that one aspect of it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Isn't the... Wait, I was just looking on the episode list for Sat AM. Isn't the first episode called Sonic Boom?
Actually, I think it is.
Which is, I mean, just retroactively, man, that's unfortunate for everyone.
Ouch. I guess, yeah, but all this to say, I've been watching Sat AM. If you want to count video games of things that I've been watching, I guess Torn of the Golden Country kind of counts as watching a show.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, what is that?
That's the Xenoblade 2 expansion.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, I have some friends that play that.
Yeah, I finished that, 100%ed it, and yeah.
I'm still trying to work my way through Xenoblade 1 on the 3DS. I'll get there eventually.
You should. It's very good.
I'm working on it, and then eventually I'll hunt down X for the Wii U.
All right.
I do not recommend X as much.
No, it's not that I don't like it. It's just that some people think it's kind of like... I think all I need to tell you is that the regular battle theme is a rap song, and you'll know how a lot of people feel about it.
Oh. um,
No, I like X. I like X. It's just it is divisive to say the least.
Fair enough. All right. Well, we've been dawdling because honestly, we don't have any news for you this week. There really wasn't much of anything. There was something about like news on the Transformers spinoff with Bumblebee, but none of us are Transformers fans. And
Right.
well, you might be, Chugga.
Nah, not really. Honestly, I'm okay with good news. I don't want to now hate another animator that I previously liked because they were in the news. So.
Shush. But yeah, no, there really wasn't. And then watch like the day after we record this, there's gonna be some like huge news about something, and people are like, "Why didn't you talk about it this week?" Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we didn't really have much to talk about with news this week. So instead, we have some questions here. I asked for SpongeBob specific questions. And also, Chugga, if you wanted to talk about my SpongeBob Season 10 video, we can do that. I don't want to sound like too egocentric or anything, but...
I mean, PIEGUYRULZ releasing a new main installment in his series is major animation news, right? he's not paying me to say this.
Absolutely, of course.
Yeah.
I caught some people off guard with this video. I think I teased it on Twitter for a while, and I mentioned it in the recast. But of course, not everyone watches this. But yeah, some people were caught off guard, which was cool. Right. Everyone should watch the recast. If you're watching this right now, turn it off and watch the. Wait, no.
No.
Just keep going. You keep going.
Yeah.
You're already there.
Yep.
All right. So SpongeBob Season 10.
Yeah. What do you think about SpongeBob Season 10, Chugga?
I gotta say, I would have rated it more highly than you did, but I have a point to bring up in relation to that.
Yeah.
As somebody who watched your whole Season 10 video, there's episodes that you scumbobbed that I would have med. There's episodes that you med that I would have gooded. Not a lot, but there were a few. And I'm wondering if the reason why I feel that way is because I haven't seen every episode of the show. I've watched most of SpongeBob, but I have viewing gaps in Season 6 and 7 because they're Season 6 and 7.
So I'm glad you mentioned this because I have something to bring up. Also, we talked about this exact point when I had you on to talk about some episodes last time.
Yeah, it was things that we disagreed on.
Mm-hmm.
Because Patrick Man was the big one, because a lot of people in the comments were like, wow, you didn't like Patrick Man?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I don't necessarily think it's because you have a gap there, because none of the episodes, I'm trying to think, I don't think they were, the ones that were ripoffs weren't ripoffs of 6 or 7. I don't think, for the most part.
I mean, I guess...
Because Plankton Gets the Boot is kind of, what's it called? I'm bad with episode titles, man.
For the record, I didn't like Plankton Gets the Boot either.
Okay. Well, SpongeBob's Place is patty hype mixed with a few other things.
Yeah.
Housewarming is Jellyfish Jam mixed with Sanctuary, which was season 8. And then, like, really the only two that I gave scumbobs that weren't what I would consider, like, rehashes or ripoffs were Whirly Brains and Lost and Found. And I know people are going to disagree with me on Lost and Found. I don't know. I felt strongly about the things that I focused on and just turned out to be the way it is. And Whirly Brains, yeah, I cannot defend that episode. I'm sorry.
Lost and Found I was pretty neutral on, though, but Plankton Retires was actually an episode that I found enjoyable, and I was surprised that, like, you scumbobbed it, though, because when I was
New
watching...
Leaf, but that's the most, like, literally reusing an exact plot line.
I'm wondering if it's because I haven't seen New Leaf in a few years, but, like, going into it, I knew that obviously Plankton was not going to really retire. I knew that from the beginning.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I know exactly what kind of show SpongeBob is, so it wasn't even that.
Right.
What I liked about it was... I like the direction they went with it, and the fact that I think they played off of us knowing that Plankton wasn't going to retire pretty well, because I knew that there was going to be a twist. I knew it was coming, but when the twist came, it was so over the top and ridiculous and just went more layers beyond what I thought, to the point where the robots are playing bingo at the end together because they're like, you know, I don't hate you, you don't hate me.
It's like there's so much padding at the end, and so I don't think it's necessarily because you haven't seen all the episodes, but I do think that, and this was like the big challenge with the season 10 video, is that the way I view SpongeBob and the way I've had to view SpongeBob in making these videos gives me a relatively unique perspective that most people don't have. I would not consider myself a fan of the show. Like, I know that's like a controversial statement. I'd consider myself a fan of the early seasons of the show, but I don't see myself as a fan. I see myself as like an anthropologist or something, like, like a like a wombologist, I guess you'd say. I see myself as someone who looks at the show critically, and I don't really watch the show in my leisure. Sometimes I'll pop on an earlier season episode, but any other time when I watch the show, I'll watch it for a video specifically. But because I've had to do that, I realize that gives me a bit of a different perspective than most people, because most people might not, like, you might not even remember New Leaf. You know what I mean? And if you don't remember New Leaf, then obviously, like, it's a... I still have problems with the concept of trying to fool the audience into thinking that Plankton is going to retire in a show like SpongeBob. But I feel like, yeah, you definitely like it a lot more. Same thing with... I mean, we are going to get into this with The Getaway, because this was a more interesting episode. That the reason I picked The Getaway for this episode is because I feel like The Getaway is one where it straddles that line on being rehashed, on being similar to other things, but also bringing something new to the table. Like, I think that's kind of one of the interesting ones. But Plankton retires, housewarming, those were just like directly. I got nothing. I can't excuse that. If you're gonna repeat the same stories, why continue on?
I won't defend housewarming at all. I thought that episode was really boring and wasn't into it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't deny that episode just is jellyfish jam, and yeah, like, it's not even a very good story in the first place. That's not one that I would defend. SpongeBob's Place, I felt, was just very okay, where I'm like, glad I checked it out once, but wouldn't really watch it again.
I'm so sick of episodes where SpongeBob leaves the Krusty Krab for whatever reason, and then it just goes to smoke. Like, I'm just so sick of it. It's
I can see that.
I get it. It's not an unpleasant episode. And again, it's like, depending on how you rate things and how you see things, it's obviously gonna be very different. And so, like, my dilemma with this season was, well, do I try to pretend like I'm just a fan of the show watching it, and like I'm not gonna hold it against it too much if it repeats itself or does X, Y, or Z thing? Or am I just going to be honest and just, here's my perspective? Even if it's a perspective that no one else in the world has, this is how I view these episodes, and this is how I'm going to present it. And ultimately, it's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to give it like a handicap or something. I'm not going to say like, well, it's funny because it's funnier than most episodes in the season, so therefore it's good. Like, I genuinely think Out of the Picture is funny. Like, I don't think it's funny in compared to the other episodes. I think it's genuinely funny. What did you think of that episode?
I'm with you. I thought it was a bit uncomfortable the first time. I'm like, am I really seeing what's going on here? No, I'm with you. I think it was a pretty funny episode, and definitely a unique take. I did get the first time that I watched it that Mr. Krabs was not always trying to kill Squidward. He was just trying to make it seem like he was dead, and then it escalated to that level at the very end for a few seconds.
And I didn't mention this in the review, but I do like that it's a crab mallet. Like, the kind you use to eat crab. That's what Mr. Krabs pulls out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Because I actually had crab over the summer. Like, I've never had regular crab. I've always had crab legs. But with regular crab, one of the things you can do is you just it's a wooden mallet that you just bash their brains in with. So.
Ooh.
Nice to know.
Not for the faint of heart. Speaking of bashing your brains in, what did you think of Whirly Brains?
All right, so Whirly Brains is... I'm not going to name the name of this person, but earlier this year I was reached out to on Twitter by a member of the crew for SpongeBob. They were congratulating me on something, and they sent me like a drawing of SpongeBob.
What? Dang.
Yeah, I was really surprised too. They were very nice, like, great person. I just kind of talked with them a little bit, and I mentioned that I liked season 10, and they'd actually worked on it. They actually apologized to me for the disturbing imagery in Whirly Brains because they helped board the episode. I didn't mention Whirly Brains at all. I just said, yeah, I like season 10. They're like, oh, glad you like it. By the way, sorry for disturbing imagery in Whirly Brains. I'm partially responsible, and I'm like, oh.
My guess is they probably didn't realize like how unsettling it'd be to have SpongeBob and Patrick's brains and eye sockets empty and open for the whole like 2/3 of the episode, because that's one of those things where I feel like in planning it'd be like, okay, and it'd be funny to have their just like their skulls open up and they don't have eyes anymore, but then you don't realize like looking at that for minutes on end, it's just like and then the diaper thing, come on, like you're better than that, SpongeBob.
I getcha. It's yeah, I get where they're coming from, and I can definitely see how maybe it wouldn't have looked disturbing in the early stages when they were deciding what things were going to look like, but having it prolonged on screen probably just gave undesired effects. I'm not really a huge fan of like brain humor and gross out humor that much. Those are definitely the jokes that land with me the least in SpongeBob.
Yeah.
There's good ones, there's certainly good ones, and there are right ways to do it, and I do think anything can technically be funny. But I'm with you on Whirly Brains. I can't say that I would have rated that episode all that much higher. I might have rated Mermaid Pants a little higher, but whatever. We're not going to go through every single episode.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be like, here's why you're wrong about A, B, C, D, E, F, N, G.
All right. So let's get into some questions here. So they are SpongeBob related questions. So we're still kind of on the same topic.
Cool.
So I actually got these from Twitter. We usually get them from our Discord, but this week they were kind of light, and I wanted to get some SpongeBob questions in because I know some people had them. So from Twitter, we have at So Help Me God. Does the show have a good legacy like other classics? How do you think it will be remembered decades from now?
I thought we weren't going to talk about religion.
So, figuring like, I guess for this hypothetical, assume the show went another 10 years, and now we're like 30 years in the future talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think? Now, Monsters, I know you don't have anywhere near as extensive SpongeBob knowledge. You've seen the classics, and that's about it, right?
Well, I've seen more than the classics. I've seen, I think, up to season 7.
Oh,
but
so all the classics, the best seasons.
Yeah, I have seen. Yeah, seasons 1 through 3 are the best.
Oh, I meant more 6 and 7 specifically.
Oh.
Those are the best ones. It's opposite day, guys.
Yeah.
I'm glad you can say you've at least seen 4 and 5, because it's more than a lot of people can say, and 4 and 5 do have some real winners in them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But
like, Crabs a la mode. I like that episode a lot.
Roller Cowards is one of my favorites. Yeah.
So Monsters, then, what do you think? What do you think about how SpongeBob will be remembered?
I think SpongeBob. Well, here's the thing. In this hypothetical time period from which we are reflecting upon SpongeBob, is SpongeBob still running?
No, I said assume SpongeBob runs another 10 years, which is still ridiculous.
Oh,
and
okay.
then we're 10 years in the future. We're doing this is recast episode like 600. No, probably like 2000 at that point.
Yeah.
We're well into our I just hit 40.
We're in nursing
you're getting
homes.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
We're Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy.
How old do you think I am? Anyway, answer the question. or don't. I'll answer the question if you're gonna.
So yeah, sorry. So I was gonna say like maybe it would have Simpsons syndrome, I guess if you want to call it that. It already kind of does have that, but assuming the show is over with, I think it will be remembered, despite I guess most of the show now, if we're taking into consideration later seasons, leaving a bit of a bad taste in the mouth of people that will remember the show. I do think it will be remembered as one of the most iconic, one of the most popular cartoons of all time, hands down.
Okay.
And I think SpongeBob will have a good legacy overall, despite the rough patches in between.
The rough patchies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky question because of course it depends. If we were to say SpongeBob ended today, right, and season 11 was the last season, it would be different than in the future because we got to predict like what's going to happen. I mean, who knows? Maybe the show gets fantastic again. Maybe the show completely bombs. Like, I think there is a timeline in which the show just eventually gets so desperate for views that we end up back in like the shock horror levels of the Splinter. Some might even say we've reached that with Ink Lemonade, which I haven't seen, but based upon what I hear on Twitter, it's a trip. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I just kind of assuming, I guess we're going along this trajectory. Let's say the rest of the seasons are meh. Let's say or at least I think they are. I would say that probably SpongeBob is remembered as a great show, and most people don't know that it went past season 3 or 4. That would be because I say that because there are people that are like that now. I mean, because SpongeBob's a kid's show, and a lot of people grow up. Like, if you were to ask the average person, like, they probably wouldn't know that SpongeBob's still running unless they had kids of their own. You know what I mean? Like, I know people that are like, hey, is that show still on? Or like, oh man, I SpongeBob's still on? Like, they don't necessarily know, or if it is going on, they don't know anything about it. So I do think that those early seasons will always be remembered as like just top tier cartoon, top tier television. The rest of it, I'm sure it will have, depending on when you grew up, I'm sure they'll have fans and supporters and love, and depending on how SpongeBob goes as it goes on. But I do think that it'll probably end up a syndrome of, well, it ran for 3 great seasons, and then there was some other stuff. What about you, Chugga?
I can agree with some people not even knowing it went past season 3 present day, where they just remember it as a great show. But I think with the kids today, with how it did get a little better over time, it has been getting more consistently good. I think it'll be one of those shows that it's always been on the air. It's been a part of everyone's childhood for the last couple decades. And it's just always been so popular that I think kids of today will remember it fondly as a show and maybe not even know that it went beyond that point either.
Right. I mean, that's also true.
I'm sure I'm sure like how the movie was more or less a series finale for us as kids, Sponge Out of Water was a series finale for, kids and teenagers of today as well.
Very possible.
That's a good way to think of it.
And also, I mean, I don't want, not to be too cynical, but Rugrats, I mean, SpongeBob has very much eclipsed where Rugrats was, hugely. Not only in episode number, but just in popularity. But there was a time when Rugrats was huge, and now, yes, they're, reviving it. But for a long time, if you were to ask an average person, it's like, oh yeah, that show, I remember that show. But they wouldn't be like, oh man, that was a fantastic show, or such an iconic show, or whatever. There is a possibility that something like The Loud House really comes and overshadows SpongeBob, and then SpongeBob is remembered, but it's not the legacy that we think it might have. There's always a possibility.
I find it tough to believe that there's going to be a show that eclipses SpongeBob. SpongeBob in its peak popularity, anybody can. SpongeBob is, I think, almost as popular as Mickey Mouse.
Have you ever heard of a show called Teen Titans Go?
It beats
SpongeBob in the ratings.
I completely forgot. No, but I guarantee you, most people around the world will look at a picture of SpongeBob and be like, "Oh, I recognize who that is."
Right, but if we're talking about after the show has ended, I mean, right now, of course, it's tough to say, and you could hypothetical it any way you want.
I think SpongeBob has the advantage that it is so quotable as a piece of media.
That's true.
You say one line from SpongeBob, and any random person on the street can finish the conversation between the two characters.
Yeah.
You also bring up a good point, just in that SpongeBob is, for better or worse, very intertwined with meme culture, and so
really
very much.
Oh God, could you imagine a time where kids know of SpongeBob, but literally only from memes?
Yeah, it's who's that big pink guy that's hiding in a cave?
Yeah, I don't know, just future memes where it's just random pics from SpongeBob, and it's just yeah, oh man, I love Yellow Square Guy.
You know what's going to be wild is lost media in the future where we know it exists because it's a meme, but that picture is all we have of that episode.
Oh, I don't know. People are really diligent at backing up things now, but maybe in 2035 when the YouTube offices melt down or something, we'll be in lost media territory forever. Sorry, Chugga, I don't mean to.
There's going to be an apocalypse, and the only thing we have left to remember SpongeBob by is a picture of Kelpie G.
There'll be a meme that's a screen cap of out of Jimmy's head, but an episode that no one can find.
Oh.
I mean, if Little Yellow Book can go meme worthy, why can't something like that?
Dude, yeah. Anything can. I saw, if I was more in tune with today's youth, there was a clip from, I was also watching some classic Looney Tunes as well. There's a clip where Bugs Bunny goes up to the witch who's cooking Hansel and Gretel and is like, it's not nice to roast kids or something. And like, I wanted to like save that and then use it the next time I see like, I don't know, like Leafy's not still, I don't think Leafy's still a thing, but like some big YouTuber like making fun of a kid or something. I wanted to save that, but I'm not meme savvy enough to make that a format.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have other questions. So from at Irregular Oreos, do you think the show should continue the more expressive, quote-unquote, animation of Season 10 onwards, or do you prefer the more consistently on-model animation from Seasons 1 through 8 and 9 to an extent? Chugga, you know what this is referring to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so Monsters, if you don't know, or anyone in the audience, in Season 10, especially in Whirly Brains, and also The Getaway, actually. The Getaway is a good example.
I was going to make note of that, yeah.
Yeah, the show is definitely more rubbery than it's ever been in terms of like flexibility, like just from face to face. Like not even like in all of SpongeBob, you know, through gags they make the characters flexible, but even in this, it's just the character will just be saying something and it'll just be an exaggerated face, or it'll just be like it'll be a close up on Mrs. Puff's face. Like they definitely go more comedic with just everything, and there are pros and cons to this. Like, I do think that maybe in, like, it makes things more visually interesting, but I do kind of wonder if having every single, like, face be exaggerated and weird kind of takes away from, like, you know, the specialty of that humor, you know? Like, if every face is special and wacky and weird, then none of them are to an extent. I don't know.
No, I see that. Yeah, like that. The prisoner, not to get into the discussion already for the episode, obviously, but like the prisoner in the Getaway episode was making tons of crazy faces, just face after face after face, and they were so exaggerated.
What do you think, Chugga?
My answer is kind of a bit in the middle, where I think it's fine in moderation, but if overdone, I can find it bringing down an episode that I would otherwise enjoy if everything is really zany all the time. I remember that you had a similar argument for, where they would use wacky background music in otherwise mundane situations to try to make the episode watch funnier, yet it ended up just kind of drawing attention to the fact that this thing really isn't that funny.
Oh yeah, welcome to Season 7.
It's similar to how I would feel about that, where if every face is constantly wacky, it does kind of take away from each one of them if just all of them are that way. So it's one of those things that I don't mind them doing it, but I think it's better in moderation.
Yeah, I don't think personally, I don't think Season 10 went too overboard with it. Like I think like The Getaway and Whirly Brains are examples of like really extreme in that way. But then the rest of the season definitely is more so than other seasons, but I wouldn't say it's like every face is exaggerated or crazy. Like I think Season 10 is a decent balance between that, but if Season 11 kind of pushes it forward, and only you know here, Chugga, I would say it's probably too overboard.
Mm-hmm. Monsters, did you have more to say? Sorry, it just sounded like you got cut off a little bit.
No, not really, because I mean I'm not too familiar with the later seasons of SpongeBob
gotcha.
8 onward. So
I'm just trying to cover for that.
No, I was just thinking maybe you had an opinion on like that and the concept in animation in general, even without knowing SpongeBob.
No, yeah, I mean it. I think especially nowadays, I do like that it makes it stand out. Because most things are on model. So the fact that they go out of their way to make these crazy faces, I do appreciate.
It is more effort, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't think about that like a lot of animation today is Flash or similar, where you don't exactly have the ability, or I don't know, within budget or whatever, to do that sort of zany faces that you would see on SpongeBob in every other show.
Right. And you used to see that stuff a lot, especially in like Ren and Stimpy. And that's one of my favorite aspects of that show.
All right, so our last question is how from TV Survivor at Survivor604. How different would you think Nickelodeon would be if SpongeBob ended after the first movie, like was originally planned?
That's a great question.
Ooh, good one.
You want to go first, Monsters?
No.
Chugga?
I mean, I think you're the most qualified to go first because that's how you know the show.
All right.
But okay, fine.
I'll go then. I'll go. I mean, I've made a lot of videos about this, and I'm a pretty strong believer that the reason why Nickelodeon got into its really terrible rut is because of SpongeBob. Like not because of SpongeBob itself, just the existence of SpongeBob. And now we know for a fact that long standing theory of if it's not as popular as SpongeBob or it's not hugely popular, the show gets canned right away. Like, that's just true. That's how Sima ran Nickelodeon. And that's why we ended up with, like, Fanboy and Chum Chum and The Mighty Bean, Sanjay and Craig, and just all these shows that, like, some of them were good, but, like, just died immediately. Some of them were terrible and still also died immediately. But we ended up with a lot of that. And if SpongeBob wasn't around for Nickelodeon to say, well, we got our moneymaker, so we can axe anything that isn't a huge success and still be financially fine. If they didn't have SpongeBob as that backbone, they would have to scramble a lot more. And sure, maybe there probably would have been a pretty dark age for Nickelodeon, but they would have also come through it a lot stronger than they necessarily did. It took a long, long time before The Loud House came along and is another show that's as not as popular as SpongeBob, but insanely popular and as beloved as SpongeBob is to a lot of people.
So think about it this way. What was it, 2004 when the SpongeBob movie premiered?
Yes.
So by that point, they just introduced Danny Phantom and they had Avatar in the works. I feel like if SpongeBob ended at that very point, I feel like they would have tried to search for another SpongeBob, like in terms of what they have now. Because SpongeBob is that backbone, like you were saying. It's the thing that's brought them financial stability. And it's also brought a lot of very negative effects to the network. But I felt like they would have kept scrambling to find something like it again, but not quite.
So you're saying if SpongeBob wasn't around to give Nickelodeon the financial security, they might not have experimented with a show like Avatar.
I mean, it was already in the works, but maybe they wouldn't have been as lenient creatively with it.
Avatar canceled in season 2. Aang died.
I mean, look at what they're doing now.
Yeah.
But
Chugga?
I can see that the Nickelodeon probably would have been more experimental without SpongeBob, but at the same time, I do kind of feel like with how Nickelodeon was structured, something else would have naturally filled the void, where
That's
they would
possible.
They would have just pushed something else as much as they pushed SpongeBob to try to force something like that. And at the time, they had plenty of shows that were huge successes that very well could have. I mean, when Fairly Odd Parents premiered, it was absolutely huge. It was definitely the number 2 to SpongeBob for many years, and they kept that on the air for a long time. And, you know, say what you will about later Fairly Odd Parents and how it was on the air years after they stopped marketing it. It might not have really been that way if they weren't, busy marketing SpongeBob.
That's true. But I guess that also means, like, in a more interesting note, people's, like, love of SpongeBob would have been theoretically transferred onto something else. You know what I mean? Like, maybe, I don't know, maybe another really good show could have been that, like maybe Danny Phantom would have been that way, or maybe, I don't know.
Danny Phantom and Avatar duke it out for title of Best Nicktoon for a lot of people.
That's true.
So it's not entirely impossible to say that one of those shows could have very well that SpongeBob's audience could have transitioned into something else. I don't think it would have been a perfect transition because they are very different shows, but
now that I think of it, I feel like, and I feel like this would absolutely have happened.
Coconut Fred's Fruitside Island would have taken over.
That would have been absolutely a train wreck. No, but I feel like if SpongeBob ended at that very point, there would have been some form of SpongeBob reboot, revival, spinoff. I mean, wasn't there actually a SpongeBob spinoff in the works for like Patrick or something?
Oh, I don't know.
That was rumored, maybe, but like there was never substantial.
There would have been a follow-up, hands down.
Sandy's Adventures in Texas. I'm telling you.
It would have had a Planet Sheen.
Oh, it would have been like Sandy's Moon or something. And
Sandy's Moon.
Sandy, yep. Sandy
Moon
and her friends
Sandy.
from Texas went off to hang out on the moon. I don't know. Oh, God.
Yeah, they would have introduced a character that looks like SpongeBob, but it's not SpongeBob. it's Bob Sponge.
The Moon Man. Bob Sponge the Moon Man.
Yeah, and he's made out of moon cheese.
Well,
there you are. That's what would have happened.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna pitch this to Nickelodeon soon.
All right, awesome. We'll have our Indiegogo in the works for next week. Oh god. All right. So next week we have 2 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle episodes, Attack of the Mousers and Mousers Attack. So check those out. One from the 2003 series and one is from the 2012 series. I don't know which one is which. Monsters, you'd have to tell them.
Attack of the Mousers is the one from 2003, and then Mousers Attack is from 2012. So yeah, watch those and let us know what you think.
Yeah, we don't do action shows too much on the recast, so that'll be interesting.
Right.
And then the week after, for the 10th recast, all right, we got
Drum
something
roll,
special.
please.
Yep. So we are going to be doing the Powerpuff Girls, the PPG versus the TTG. It's a Teen Titans Go episode, so it's the crossover between those two reboots. Okay, that's pretty special in and of itself. And for that, we are going to have Shadow on as a guest, but also we are going to be comparing it to the most recent Cartoon Network crossover, which hasn't even aired yet, OK KO's Cartoon Nexus, which features Ben 10. So we're also going to have Kuro the Artist. So we're going to have Shadow, we're going to have Kuro, we're going to have Monsters, we're going to have me. Chugga, you're not invited. I'm sorry.
It's a crossover talking about crossovers.
Yep. So, yeah, you can't watch that yet, but when that episode airs on October 8th, definitely watch it and catch up on the PPG versus TTG. That's a very controversial, very contentious crossover, and also, I don't know what Cartoon Network Nexus is going to be like, but it should be very interesting. So, we'll probably end up having a supersized episode for that too. So,
right.
So like 7 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah. Chugga, I'm sorry you didn't laugh, so I might have hurt your feelings.
No, I whimpered. I was like, when you said it.
Okay, all right. I'm sure you have more important things to do. Anyway, not that the recast isn't super important.
Yeah.
So, now on to the main event. SpongeBob Meets the Strangler versus The Getaway. So
where do you start?
We'll start with meeting the Strangler. So
Okay.
SpongeBob Meets the Strangler is an episode where SpongeBob is on litter patrol and catches a guy littering, calls the cops on him, and it turns out he's the Tattletale Strangler who will strangle the heck out of anyone that tattletales on him. The Tattletale Strangler shows up and tries to strangle SpongeBob, but he can't do it in public, so he has to disguise himself as SpongeBob's bodyguard to try to do it in private, but SpongeBob never gives him a chance, accidentally outwitting him at every turn. This is a classic episode, guys.
Oh, yeah.
What I've always said about SpongeBob Meets the Strangler is that the Strangler is a character that does not fit within SpongeBob. Like, in terms of antagonists in those early seasons, like, we had the bully who, like, he was more serious, but he was still cartoonish and goofy. We had Kevin, who also was, like, pretty goofy. This guy, I mean, he's definitely goofy, but his name is the Strangler. Strangling someone's like one of the worst ways to murder. Check out my top 5 coming next week. Top 5 ways to murder. No, but like that's one of the things I love right off the bat is just how intense the Strangler is and how just like how did they get away with this?
It's probably just a product of the time that SpongeBob could get away with anything. I mean, this is the same season that had the panty raid in it.
Very true. So what did you guys think of this?
Funny enough, I was watching it and I was thinking to myself, some of the visual direction, I was like, hey, this looks just like season 4. So I looked up the episode and it's season 3, episode 20A.
Yep.
And I was like, go figure.
Very late in production.
Very end. I don't know if it was the last one produced though, but it was the last aired.
It is it along with its sister episode, Pranks a Lot, is the last in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, although maybe the Sponge Who Could Fly. I should really know this.
No, the Sponge Who Could Fly did air last, but it was I think produced sooner.
Right.
That's the Lost episode, right?
Yeah.
Which is, what does that even mean?
It means that Patchy lost it, obviously.
Yeah.
No, these are the last 2 episodes in production order, and they aired in October of 2004, so timely. If only someone had like done an order of airing on these episodes in some sort of video form, then I'd know if it was the last one aired. But anyway, but yeah, what do you guys think of this episode?
I think it is a classic episode. Season 3 is a little shakier in terms of quality than 2 though, but this one absolutely deserves its classic status. It's hilarious. I personally like to think that SpongeBob actually does know that it's the Strangler and he's just playing a little game with him because it is a little funny to think of it that way. I know that he's surprised at the end, but so many things he does are really great. I mean, I like to think that he had this complicated scheme of sending out the party invitations just to annoy this guy later.
Yep.
I mean, actually, what plays into that theory, that's a good point, because the Strangler actually confesses to SpongeBob twice that he is the Strangler.
Yes.
So the first time it's like when he's in the house, and then once he basically tries to do whatever he can to get away from SpongeBob, SpongeBob still refers to him as the bodyguard. He doesn't refer to him as the Strangler until he's in the jail cell.
That is true.
Once the mustache is gone, there's literally there's not even an excuse.
There's not.
There's not many episodes of SpongeBob that have this like alternate theory to them, so that's one of the cool aspects. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but it's definitely something interesting to think about.
It is. I like to think about the episode that way, and you are right. There's no shadow of a doubt. Even beyond the mustache, when he removes it, he's like, "He's not the Strangler. I am." The Strangler himself is great. I know that he's an actual murderer, but it doesn't change the fact that he's so over the top and played for laughs, almost to the levels of Man Ray. He's great. I love that one part of the episode where I think he says, "Yeah, we'll go back to your house so I can strangle you. I mean, choke you. I mean, crush your windpipe. I mean, protect me." Yeah. That is such a good moment. That's one of those things that I rewind and watch again and again.
Another great thing is how casual the cops are about letting him get away. Like, so the cops they put all these handcuffs on him, and then they're like, "Oh, don't worry, we've got him locked up for good." And then as soon as the cops look over and just see a pile of handcuffs and the Strangler's not there, they're like, we'll get him next time. Like there's not a surprise, like, "Oh no, he got away." They're just like, "Oh, all right, we'll get him."
They also get in single file line and take turns putting handcuffs on the Strangler.
Yes.
I like the
eyes.
Eyeballs. Yes.
Yep. And his hair.
Every time there's ever useless cops in the show, it's always those same two fish. They were the same fish that were in
Nasty Patty.
Nasty Patty, and like a few other episodes too. Whenever there's useless cops in the show, it's always those exact two fish. They always use those models, even though there's other police fish in the show. It's always those two that are useless.
And also, littering is like the main crime in Bikini Bottom across the series.
Mm-hmm.
And also, that's like one of the kind of
subtle
like
environmental message.
Well, it's one of the more SpongeBob's been less subtle than that at times, but so this guy is the Tattletale Strangler, right? He's been known to strangle, or he apparently, like, he's some sort of murderer, right? Like, he's a strangler. You don't get the name Strangler just because you say you're gonna strangle someone, but like he gets arrested for littering. like this is a guy that's
and he's
presumed
not in jail, even though he killed people.
Right. He's presumed to have killed people, and SpongeBob catches him on littering.
Squidward says like he strangles anyone who tattletales on him. So This is a regular occurrence, and he's just free.
And another great thing is like a subtle thing in the episode is that his name is Tattletale Strangler, like on his ID card.
First name Tattletale, last name Strangler on his ID card.
Oh my goodness. There's another great joke with he's gonna strangle me with his hands. I hope they're not dirty. And then he pulls up these disgusting, like, that's a great gross up close up. It's not overly disgusting, but it's like, it's such a great gag.
His face is good too. What else is good about the episode?
Hey, listen, there was the best joke in this episode, and one of the best jokes in all of SpongeBob, one of the best exchanges. I'll stand by. Do you guys know where I'm going with this?
6 hours later.
The cleats, yeah.
Yes.
Oh my god.
I love how mortified SpongeBob sounds. He's like, "I'm trying, but my cleats are stuck in your corneas." And then just the 6 hours later is the best time card in all of SpongeBob. And those are strong words.
I wrote down, or I copied from the SpongeBob wiki, the exact exchange, and the Strangler says, "Hop on my shoulders," and SpongeBob says, "Sure, with these spiky cleats, anything is possible." And then the Strangler's like, cleats! And then SpongeBob jumps directly into his eye sockets. And then he says, get your feet out of my eye sockets. And SpongeBob replies, I'm trying, but my cleats are stuck in your corneas. I just like... Oh,
I don't know why I find this so funny, but so Squidward at the beginning of the episode, he's just like his grumpy old self. Then when they do the party subversions, he's all happy and he's shown to be dancing in the background like this really weird dance, and
with
he's wearing like a pink lampshade on his head.
Squidward's a party animal. Listen,
He is,
you know, at times,
even if
when
it
he
is at
wants to.
SpongeBob's house,
Right?
I was gonna say, I don't know. Like, this episode it's a great use of cartoon logic and just such huge leaps.
It's Looney Tunes is the other way I describe it. It's very much if SpongeBob is indeed in the know. I mean, this is no different from how Bugs Bunny treats Elmer Fudd or Yosemite Sam. Like,
Definitely.
Also, this I don't know why this sticks with me years later, and I don't know why I find this funny. But SpongeBob's best in town or best around. I don't know why that's funny, but it's funny.
I think it's just how he's just like in town, around, in town.
I guess it's
around.
the mundaneness, you know, like you go shopping and you're like, oh, well, this one says it's the best, but then this one says it's really the best.
If you wanted to waste somebody's time intentionally being in the know, that's absolutely how you would do it.
Very true.
Yeah. There's so many good things to say about this episode. Like, I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface of everything in it. There's so many little moments, and it's at a breakneck pace. It starts out a little bit slow, but it's easily forgivable for just how good it is.
That's an interesting point, is that it does start out it starts out with SpongeBob clocking in. This is the one with his on-time percentage.
Yeah, he ends up just sitting there waiting to clock in for the first 30 seconds or so of the episode without anything really happening, and him and Squidward just kind of talk a little bit, and then it gets actually started.
And then there's just this tattletale strangler hanging out in the parking lot of the Krusty Krab.
On a bench that's never there.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I love the fact that the attendance thing comes back around, because by the time that the party happens, I completely forgot that happened in the beginning.
Yes, it seems like such a... You know, that's good, because it's such a mundane thing that you don't think about it, so it starting out slow does work to the advantage because you're not expecting it.
That's one of two things that comes back. Patrick throwing himself in jail, which is not the first time he's done that in the series, or tried to confess to something he didn't do. But that comes back as well. Is there anything you guys don't like about this episode?
If you can believe it, it does share a pretty big similarity to Party Pooper Pants in that so much time is spent about... So much conflict across a few minutes of runtime comes from SpongeBob not having the key to his house, and then he just has one under the mat, but there's no mat there up until that shot.
Yeah, but I'm so much more okay with this one because
I'm much more okay with it in this one than in Party Pooper Pants, no doubt. Mm-hmm. But it's a little funny that the rest of the episode is so great that it's a lot more forgivable here than it is there.
Right. Yeah, I guess I would agree to some extent that but before the Stranglers introduced, they could have sped things up a little bit, or they could have made it a little more interesting than SpongeBob just kind of waiting around. And also, I mean, this is such a minor complaint, but the joke with Krabs being afraid of the Strangler, I feel like there could have been a funnier joke in there.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I mean, that's like hypothetically, this could have been better. Like
Larry instantly dying upon being shown the picture.
Turning into a real lobster.
Yeah.
What about you, Monsters? Anything you don't like?
I agree. Like, it's the first 7 minutes where before the Strangler actually attempts to strangle SpongeBob. So yeah, it does start off a little bit slow, but I still give it classic status.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so the getaway. Does someone want to give the description of this episode?
SpongeBob on a driving lesson with Mrs. Puff accidentally mistakes an escaped convict for his replacement boating instructor and becomes a really good getaway driver because he's an amazing reckless driver, yet simultaneously is a horrible getaway driver because he hurts the dude.
Okay, that's fair.
That's what I got.
So the similarities between these two episodes are that SpongeBob meets a criminal whom disguises himself as an occupation to help SpongeBob, and SpongeBob inadvertently hurts that criminal, ultimately ending in that criminal wanting to be sent back to jail and ending up in jail.
Yes.
So, like I mentioned earlier, we can talk about the getaway itself before we kind of go into comparisons. What did you guys think of this episode?
I liked it. It was, I think, on the higher end of season 10 for me. Not top 5 material, but certainly in the upper half.
Okay. Monsters?
Yeah, I have no frame of reference in terms of other, later SpongeBob episodes, but no, I was thoroughly entertained by it. I thought it was a decent episode. I mean, like I said, I'm only comparing it to what I know of SpongeBob, which is pretty much the golden episode. So, I mean, compared to that, I don't think it's anything special, but I didn't think it was bad at all.
Okay. That's fair.
It was funny. It was interesting seeing what was going to happen. They had a lot of good visual comedy.
Yeah, the facial expressions. One little thing that I liked was at the very beginning of the episode, when SpongeBob backs up the boatmobile, the music that they were playing before starts playing in reverse.
Yes.
That's such a little touch, but I love it.
It is good. I like how twice in a row of being on here we're talking about a gag where the background music gets played backwards.
Yeah. What did you guys think about this episode taking place all at night? Sorry, at night.
I mean, it's cool. I mean, I don't really think it affected the story that much. One thing I did really like, though, was the relationship between Mrs. Puff and Dorsal Dan, a.k.a. Steve Buscemi. I thought that was funny.
Let's see. First off, what is it with recent SpongeBob and focusing on Mrs. Puff's love life?
I don't know. Monsters, you don't know this, but this is sandwiched between 2 episodes in season 10 where she is consistently dating Mr. Krabs.
Well, I remember that one episode. I think it's from season 3 where she dates Mr. Krabs, but that's the only one I remember.
They play with her and Mr. Krabs a lot recently after it didn't get brought up forever.
Yeah. So I liked that aspect of the episode. I think it adds a subplot for a little bit of variation, and it gives Mrs. Puff something to do other than just be like, gotta get that SpongeBob. But it's just a little weird, the timing of that.
Yeah.
Some actual points about the episode that I would say, other than Mrs. Puff's love life being kind of funny, that it's like she's cheating on Krabs at nighttime at her job, is that I like the setting of it being a boating school episode where it is a boating school episode. It involves prison, but it's not the same old and tired thing, and they do a complete and total spin on it. And I could picture Mrs. Puff actually being into a convict kind of guy.
Yeah.
It's the innuendo that they use in the episode also, I think, is a real high point of it, where Mrs. Puff is turned on by his driving ability, and they're using parallel parking.
His foot.
You have a tender foot, and he's just like, oh, that's the first time anyone ever called my foot. And then she's like, sorry about your gentle foot, and then crushes it.
I thought the ending line was stupid to the entire episode. So basically, yeah. So the prisoner that SpongeBob was driving ends back up in jail, and it's after this chase where they all end up in the air, and all of these police boatmobiles end up back in the police station, and all the police fish basically pop out of their vehicles, and they're just like, drive safely and make sure you wear a seatbelt. I'm just like, yeah. Speaking of heavy-handed messages,
it's a little random.
Yeah,
it just felt out of place.
SpongeBob is, when it comes to environmentalism messages, they're very much into that. But in general, they're not super huge on giving morals at the end of the episode. So that was definitely just kind of questionable. What? Why was this there?
I guess crying solves all your problems after all.
Right. It's very anti-moral in a lot of episodes.
Yeah. Not to mention, SpongeBob's target audience totally drive. So
Well,
Totally.
So here's the thing. I will say, when I watched this episode the first time, I was probably on board with you guys. I did kind of fluctuate over what score to give this episode. But after watching it a few more times, there's something about how, like, kind of formulaic it is. Like, I kind of like that it's at night, but I also find the muted colors to be a little more, like, uninteresting. And then just that they drive through and the strangler and the thief steal stuff, and then they drive through another thing and the thief steals stuff, and then SpongeBob drives them through a golf course and then a patch of coral, and then it just, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's just a little monotonous and unvaried, and even though it's all in a boatmobile and even though it's all in motion, for some reason it still feels less interesting because it's mostly just that one, like, outside location through the whole thing. I don't know if I'm entirely phrasing it right, but I feel like I want to think this episode is diverse and interesting, but I just don't.
You'd say it's repetitive, where you're seeing a lot of the same thing over and over again and in the same setting.
Right. I mean, even though it's outdoors, it's still the same setting because the setting is outdoors at night.
I think that the high point for that aspect of the episode is the jewelry shop.
Yes, that's actually inside for once.
Yeah, there's some funny stuff, like SpongeBob makes all these wacky faces and the guy reacting to him. He's the guy who sells them the bags in chocolate with nuts. So there's also
Shapes
that.
and noises. I love it.
Shapes and noises. I love. Yeah, it feels almost like a meta joke about recent SpongeBob, but you know.
I wrote that down. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking.
The fact that it's the guy from Chocolate with Nuts saying it too just makes it even better. And then there's the fact that when they come out and drive away, he runs out. He's like, "Help! I've been robbed!" And then Mrs. Puff's like, "I shopped there too before I was robbed."
Yeah. Yep.
And that's where I'm also in dilemma, because I do think that this is a funnier episode. Like, there were things that I thought were kind of funny. I don't think anything comes close to, like, the Cleach joke. Or
no,
like half the jokes in Meets the Strangler, but I do still think that there is some chuckle-worthy stuff, and it's actually funny because a lot of it is, you know, SpongeBob's wacky face on his card, SpongeBob making wacky faces in the shop. You know, it's a lot of that stuff as well. The guy gets hit with coral and makes wacky faces.
The card thing was really great. It reminds me a lot of like SpongeBob wearing a mustache in My Pretty Seahorse a long time ago.
And then there's, like, I feel like this is an episode that, like, is trying to do something different, desperately trying, and I give it credit for somewhat doing that, but then that mid-air chase sequence is straight out of Doing Time. That's exactly, like, it's the same sort of thing. And then, like, I guess we'll compare it to The Strangler here. What did you guys think of the actual criminal guy? Not the getaway driver himself that Mrs. Puff is interacting with. The actual Sticky Fins is his name.
I thought he was honestly a pretty generic bad guy, but I don't think the episode hinged on him being an interesting character.
Really? Because
Here's what I think. With the Strangler, I was laughing when he's in misery, when SpongeBob has his cleats in his eye sockets and when he's torturing him and he can't escape SpongeBob. But I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because his character isn't fleshed out enough, but I actually kind of felt bad for the prisoner when SpongeBob was torturing him.
It's kind of like how you cheer for the bank robbers at times.
Right. The thing is, like, SpongeBob was definitely annoying in both episodes, but the thing is, SpongeBob, like, I was aware that he was annoying in SpongeBob Meets the Strangler, but I wasn't annoyed by him. Whereas, like, I actually kind of felt irritated by SpongeBob in The Getaway.
Yeah, I can see that.
I can see.
So I kind of felt bad for the guy.
I didn't feel bad for him. I didn't feel anything, really. Like,
I mean, I know he's a criminal.
No, I mean, I know. I do agree that The Strangler is more focused in SpongeBob Meets the Strangler. Like, that episode hinges a lot more on the Strangler being an interesting character than this one does, because it has the getaway aspect, it has Mrs. Puff's subplot, it has the driving aspect, like, it has other things, but I still feel like this guest star, I don't know who it is. It's some other guy that's known for playing criminals. Not Steve Buscemi. He leaves no impression. Like, his voice acting is not interesting. His character design is not interesting. Like, I feel like the characters from Jailbreak last season, the characters that get like 2 lines each, are much better designed and much more interesting than this random schmuck.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that really, because a lot of the episode is dedicated to SpongeBob torturing him inadvertently, it's like, for me to not care about him, that's a problem.
Yeah, the voice actor is Joe Pantoliano, known for playing roles in The Goonies and The Sopranos.
Ah, there we go.
Oh, well, yeah.
He's a mobster.
So, yeah.
On TV.
I mean, we got Dorsal Dan, who was definitely the better of the two characters.
Right.
Like, so I wouldn't say that, like, that's the thing, is that there's a lot more going on than in SpongeBob Meets the Strangler, where it's very much between the dynamic between those two, so the character needed to be interesting. That's why I'm saying that, yes, Sticky Fins is not an interesting character, I'll give you that, and yeah, I can see how it would take away from the conflict of the episode that he's getting tormented constantly if you don't even care about him.
Mm-hmm.
I just do think there is enough other stuff there that I don't mind as much. There's small chuckle-worthy gags. The whole thing with Mrs. Puff is just kind of eyebrow-raising and keeps me interested.
Chugga, this is a family show.
I ain't talking about his tender foot, okay? Okay, yeah.
Continue.
I'm just saying, there's other stuff to keep me interested there, whereas if SpongeBob Meets the Strangler was about Sticky Fins, I can tell you a lot of it would have fallen apart and not been as interesting.
SpongeBob Meets the Sticky Fins.
SpongeBob Meets the Sticky Fins.
I'm amazed we got this far with neither of you mentioning the big Easter egg at the beginning of the episode.
Smitty Warben Yangerman Jensen.
Yes.
I didn't notice that. Where was he? Was
He's
he
in the graveyard.
when they were backing up?
No, at the very, very beginning of the episode. I mean, look, it's a background cameo that means nothing in terms of quality of the episode. But it's cool. It's definitely cool.
If Mrs. Puff's gonna take him to go driving in a graveyard so he can't kill anybody, that's definitely the background gag you should do.
True.
Yeah.
Also, there's a phone booth in this episode.
Mrs. Puff mentions, like, get me to a payphone, yeah, and then she goes, like, what?
I'm sure at that point a lot of the audience was like, what? Excuse
What's
me?
a payphone?
Is that the new iPhone? All right, so the comparisons. We can all agree that the Strangler is just so much of a better character than Sticky Fins.
Easily,
Yeah.
even more so than Dorsal Dan.
Right. And also, motivation wise, like, I find that, like, angle of this, he's trying to kill SpongeBob, and SpongeBob is outwitting him either intentionally or unintentionally. That's up for the viewer to decide. Whereas in The Getaway, it's basically just, he's stealing stuff. Like, I don't know. And then also, something minor that bugged me about The Getaway is that the stuff they steal disappears between shots.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
Like the jewelry.
Yeah, it's not.
They rob jewelry twice. They
I
rob
mean-
it from like those rich people, and they also rob it from the jewelry store.
I mean, he did go and launder the money, right?
God dang it. I don't like that joke. That's so obvious.
Oh, come on.
I mean, I don't know. I guess the target audience probably hasn't seen, like, Breaking Bad or whatever, but...
Hooray, I'm the target audience.
Sticky Fins is actually Walter White.
Oh my gosh.
Now, they should have gotten... Dude, if they got Bryan Cranston, Sticky Fins would not have been a boring character. Oh, man.
He would have been like Heisenbob.
Breaking Bob.
Oh, God. Yeah, I still don't think any of the joke comes close to the cleats.
No, the Cleats is one of the best.
Right. Visually, like, The Getaway looks nicer because it's, like, what, 18 years later and in HD? Like,
I can agree there, of course. I would say the Getaway, like, as a one quick point I want to, like, kind of put in while we're talking about the animation. I would say the Getaway has, I think, better subtle details in it, because we were talking about, the Smitty cameo and, like,
Right.
the guy from Chocolate with Nuts being inserted into like a place that makes sense. and there's just a lot of interesting stuff going on in the background. I do think that if the getaway wins in anything, it would be subtle details like that.
Yes. Also, Monsters, did you notice anything about when Sticky Fins was getting hit with the coral?
No.
If you want to know what I'm talking about, watch my season 10 review.
Dun, dun,
But no, I definitely agree. But I mean,
at the same time, like SpongeBob Meets the Strangler, with it only being in season 3, didn't have anything to reference.
Well, it's not just
Well.
references; it's just kind of like fun little attention to detail going
Right?
on.
No,
It's-
yeah,
Right.
that is
yeah.
cool.
I guess. I guess I want to say this is that the getaway. I think what it is I think it kind of has boring cinematography. Like I maybe that's what it is. In that, even though a lot of things are in motion, I just don't like. I feel like we're seeing the same angle of the car a lot of the episodes.
It's
Yeah.
no matter which plot it's following, both plots are two guys sitting in a car.
Right, basically. And so it's like it's weird. I mean, we have a comment here from Sandals that says the getaway has more energy and a much better atmosphere, though the Strangler was funnier. And yeah, I on the one hand, like I feel like yes, a car chase is interesting, but it just because they're in the car for so much of the episode, and you're right, we're cutting between two of basically the same action. Like it's a little monotonous. Like I don't know. I don't know how you'd break that up. I mean, they do get out of the car at one point and then at the very end, but I don't know.
Also, maybe this plays into dumb character logic, but after SpongeBob and the criminal he's driving end back up in the jail, why would Dorsal Dan pull up to the jail?
Yeah, I don't know. I found that weird. Like he turns
Because that's
off.
how he gets arrested.
Yeah, he doesn't follow them off the cliff. I don't know, Chugga, it sounded like you had like a response or something.
No, I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, no, yeah.
You gotta have Mrs. Puff at the end with of course, a gag about how she wants to be thrown in prison.
Yeah.
Of course.
Lock me up.
I do kind of hope that the whole they have been doing more continuity stuff lately, and it'd be really funny if they mention the fact or just subtly nod toward the fact that she loves a man who's in prison that she can't be with.
Well, I forgot what I was gonna say. I guess while I mentioned the viewer comments, let's get to the other two. So we have one from Zelda Master 82 who says SpongeBob Meets the Strangler had better comedy, and I like the Strangler more than the guy in the getaway, who was just kind of a generic prison guy. Although it was fun getting to see him abused by SpongeBob's obliviousness, which, yep.
Fair enough. All you have to know is
Yeah.
that he did bad things and he deserves it.
Yeah. What did Sticky Fins do? I guess he stole things. This is his big thing. They should have had him be a litterer. Like that would have been.
Right.
I mean, his name is Sticky Fins, so.
I mean, it would have been honestly, if we're talking like continuity stuff, if it was the Strangler that SpongeBob picks up from prison,
And he also doesn't know it's him there either.
right. He just got diagnosed with face blindness. And then our third comment is from Blue Sector Mirage, who says SpongeBob Meets the Strangler is probably the episode where SpongeBob displays the most intelligence he's ever had in a single episode. If honestly, the way SpongeBob just innocently tortures the Strangler is darn funny. The getaway is just pure energy. It's quite an excellent episode, probably my second favorite of season 10.
I think it's good. I would say lower end of good, not meh.
Do you guys have anything else about these episodes?
I think I got everything out that I really wanted to say. Like, I think I had all those points. I made my point about Mrs. Puff's love life coming up a lot in recent episodes.
Yeah.
If we didn't make it clear, we like SpongeBob Meets the Strangler more.
yeah.
Yeah. I guess this the last thing. I don't know. I think The Getaway is a very interesting episode to talk about, and I think it's like, I mean, another thing is just that like, and Monsters, you probably don't know this, but Chugga, you probably do. Just that this is the fourth episode in a row of boating school episodes that have taken place outside driving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I feel like it's the perfect storm of being like just similar enough to a lot of other things that I feel like I've seen this before. But then there are some original aspects to the episode and some things that I like, and that's kind of where I am. And that's ultimately why I picked this episode, because we could have done SpongeBob's Place and Patty Hype, and I would have pretty much had nothing good to say about SpongeBob's Place, to be honest with you. Same thing with Housewarming.
No, I was gonna say I think you made a good choice there because like I didn't dislike SpongeBob's Place as much as you, but my feeling was it was an okay, inoffensive viewing that I didn't mind doing once, and
Right.
there's just nothing to really say.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't have much to like defend or whatever. Where I feel like, even though I do still feel very meh about The Getaway, I feel like my opinion is such that there's like, it's meh because there's good and bad things, and it's weird and interesting versus like just a boring episode where it's just like, well, whatever. So I'm open to hearing other opinions on this one, and I'm very open to bump it into upper or lower meh accordingly.
That's good. I do want to say that yeah, we all agree SpongeBob Meets the Strangler is better though, but at the same time, the episode this is pitted up against is a really hard act to follow, where even the better episodes of recent seasons that people are like, oh yeah, best episode in that season, I don't think even those we'd come out of those, like most of those, saying that they're better than SpongeBob Meets the Strangler.
So what you're saying is the next time we talk about SpongeBob on this show, we should pick like an episode like Mimic Madness or something and pit it up against a really good episode from early seasons.
What could you pit that up against that's really similar?
I mean, I don't know. Missing Identity. Like,
I hate to say it, but it has some similarities with the sponge that could fly, but that's another one-sided way, just in the opposite direction.
Yeah. I mean, we could just pit it up against just another good episode.
I'm going to find a way to
comparison.
include the episode My Leg.
All I ever hear about is My Leg and Ink Lemonade. You'd think that those are the only two episodes in season 11 based upon how people talk.
I haven't seen it either. I just, by the title and from what I know about it, it just seems like it's something that needs to be discussed.
There have been tons of YouTube videos already, from my understanding.
You've already compared The Thing with jellyfishing, so
I have, but there's lots of other comparisons in SpongeBob, and
there's too many Squidward torture episodes, you know.
Right. They're not always as one-sided as you might think, but
No.
but anyway, we always like to close off our podcast with a trivia game, and this week I left it up to Monsters, so blame him if it's awful. Take it away, Monsters.
that was a great introduction. Thank you so much.
Lower that expectations. No, I'm sure you did a great job.
Great trait for a podcast host to have. No faith in his co-host.
Yeah. Okay, so basically what we're gonna do is I'm going to read off a description, and I need the title and the season for you to earn the point. So I have a few of these. All right. I'll have Pieguy go first, followed by Chugga.
Okay.
All right. So the first one. Gary is eager to indulge in some snail snacks SpongeBob brought home.
The episode is called Treats, and it is from season... Oh, goodness. It's from season 9.
Is it necessary to specify 9A or 9B?
No, just saying.
No.
Yeah, it's Treats from season 9.
You guys are wrong.
Season 8?
Yeah, it's season 8.
Dang it!
Wow, I wasn't just copying. I really thought it was 9.
Season 9 was the one with the pet toy. Ah, God.
Oh, yeah, the ball. Oh.
Gary episodes are so similar, man.
Okay, number 2. Mr. Krabs sends SpongeBob and Patrick to run a traveling restaurant.
That's easy. Oh, actually, that's 20,000 patties. Oh, goodness. Hang on. It's 20,000 patties below the sea, I think is the name of it. And that's a season 5 episode.
It's 20,000 patties under the sea, and it's season 5.
That's correct.
Dang it! Oh, that's such
a little thing.
That's an evil episode title.
I remember that episode vividly, not for the content of the episode, but because the music on the title card is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my entire life, and it's so weird that it is.
I'm pretty sure one of the Beatles is the guest star in that episode.
Ringo
Really?
Starr, right?
I don't know. You're the one with the thing pulled up.
Ringo Starfish.
He's a giant sea monster. He's some musician.
So Chugga's winning 1-0.
Because we tied, yeah. Because we got nothing.
We tied and losing the first
Yeah, we
round.
tied and losing.
Number 3. The Flying Dutchman stays with SpongeBob to reclaim his dignity.
Ghost Host season 4.
I mean, Chugga can just copy.
He can.
but maybe he doesn't want to. Maybe
I'm
this is a
thinking
different
about
episode.
this, and I'm wanting to say that's a season 5 episode. I'm gonna say Ghost Host season 5.
Well, you should have gone with your gut because it is season 4 Ghost Host.
Yeah. It's a really good episode.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's all tied up.
Okay.
1-1.
Also, I don't think I didn't notice that helping Chugga their monsters. You could just copy him. Wink, wink.
I mean, it worked against him.
Yeah.
It
Well,
did.
no, it didn't. If you copied me, it wouldn't have worked against him.
Yeah, I should have just copied. I shouldn't have just. I was thinking 5 before you said anything, and then I didn't go with it.
Well, you know what? You were original with your answer, and that earns you some like imaginary points.
That earns you an imaginary friend from Foster's.
Okay.
Can it not be blue?
Nobody wants blue.
It's one of the knockoff blues from the Ice Capades.
I was gonna say from the Go Goo Go, but
Okay. Next episode, numero cuatro. When SpongeBob hides the Krabby Patty formula in his house, Gary must protect it from plankton.
I love this episode, but the name of it is escaping me. I don't think this is the right one, but yeah, no, it's not. Shellback Shenanigans is the one where Plankton disguises himself as Gary. Dang it, I don't know the title of this episode. Go for it, Chugga.
Can you give me a season?
Well, that doesn't earn me any points.
Yeah, it does.
What? You
No,
told
it
me?
doesn't. I was joking.
Okay, so why would I help Chugga then by giving the season?
Make it
Go,
up
Chugga.
the rules. Pineapple Invasion season 9.
That is correct.
Dang it. It's a really good episode. It's just the title is not. It's not the most indicative of what happens.
It's like Pull Up a Barrel, where it's a great episode with a bad title.
Right. Should be more like Gary's Shell Invasion, really. Anyway, that's not a great title either, but go Monsters.
Chugga's winning 2-1. You do have a chance in this last question, Pieguy, to tie him.
Okay.
So, here we go. SpongeBob becomes normal.
Oh, come on. That's easy. Not normal from season 6.
Yeah,
we talked about this episode.
Yeah, we made a video about it together, so I'm just gonna copy that.
Well, yeah, that's correct.
All right.
But Chugga wins by 1 point, 3-2. It was a great game. It was poorly planned, but it worked out in the end.
No, thank you. It was fun.
Congratulations, Chugga.
Thank you. When now I can say that doing a video with you in the past meant something in life.
Oh, you didn't take satisfaction out of working with me before? I see how it is.
Now I've actually won something from it. You were your own downfall inviting me.
Monsters, we have a terrible track record at winning these.
Yeah, for real.
I lost the other one, and you've lost, like, I think 2 of 3 that you've done.
Yeah, I've lost most of them. I know that much.
So we got to either up our game or stop giving the guests the help.
Yeah.
I'm just very happy that the one time you gave me help, I didn't take it, and it was my undoing, and then I won by knowing a favorite episode of yours that you couldn't remember.
Yeah. Pineapple Invasion. Well, I won't forget it now. I don't know.
That'll be engraved.
I think one of those things is that it is, for some, like, it lines up more for me with Shellback Shenanigans. So that's just where my mind goes. So I pushed the original episode title out of my head.
You know, on the note of Shellback Shenanigans, how many seasons do you think it is before we get Plankton dressing up as Patrick to steal the formula? Because it's really the only one he hasn't done. We're
probably going to get Plankton dresses up as Mrs. Puff to give a boating school lesson, which somehow ends up in stealing the formula. Which I think could be an interesting episode, but
you think we'll get that before Patrick?
Yeah, probably. Well, I don't know. You're right. I mean, Patrick's up there. Do you think we'll get the Mr. Krabs and Plankton like Karate Kid parody first?
Like he's dressed up as Mr. Krabs. He's
Cobra Crab. That's a really bad pun.
We've had Crabborg. We've had Someone's in the Kitchen with Sandy. We've had Shellback Shenanigans.
We've had the one with his grandmommy.
Yeah, we had him try to get the formula out of Squidward, but I guess he hasn't dressed up as Squidward.
Yeah, he's well. I mean, he became Patrick at the end of that one, the Inside Job.
Yeah. So I don't know.
You're right though. I could see that. I could see like them just basically recreating the first Plankton episode where he gets his little mind control thing with Patrick, but like there's no brain to attach it to or something. All right. Well, thank you very much for being here, Chugga. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Oh, thank you both for inviting me. Thank you for having me. It was really fun. I like talking about SpongeBob. It's something I can't often talk about in my videos either.
Yeah, you're very welcome to come back on the podcast anytime you want. All right.
Thank you.
So with that, thank you guys for being here. I hope you guys liked our all SpongeBob episode. Let us know if you'd like to see more episodes that are maybe like singularly focused a little bit more. Because if we're light on news, or maybe we just don't want to talk about any news in a week, I think substituting that segment for something else. It worked last time when we talked about the Netflix show.
Dude, you only talk about SpongeBob.
Shut up. Shut up, Chugga. All right.
What if Pieguy's actually Patchy this entire time?
I mean, he had that video where he was going to dress up as Patchy in costume and review the Patchy episodes. That hasn't happened.
I never reached that Patreon goal. Anyway. Bye, guys. PIEGUYRULZ out.
Bye, guys, rules.
Bye!